tuned in to this week's episode of Tribal Research Specialists, the podcast. A podcast about tribal people, our communities, and discussions on research traditions. We aim to uncover the true meaning of research methodological approaches that are currently operating in tribal life, with implications for tribal communities and avenues for knowledge production. So we're kind of back in a way. We've been took a little break, and we're just lucky enough to get a guest for us today. And man, we're, like I said, we're winging it, man. It's like that first day back at the gym. You know, you go hardcore. You're like, yeah, you're just pumping out reps maybe, and then the next day, your little wings are so sore, you can't reach above your head. And I know Aaron's been hitting the gym. I know he's felt the burn. And, you know, I can speak from my experience, but I know that Aaron's an accomplished bodybuilder. No, I don't think he's a bodybuilder, but he does have, or had, the gun show going on at one time. But man, you're getting old, partner. You're getting old.
Yeah, 38, man. I'm 38.
38. It's like a decade close to retirement, right? 38, 40. No, I can't retire 48. Okay.
I find that the majority of my stories begin with when I was a kid or a few years back. There's nothing like, there's nothing worth a damn in the last. Nothing adventurous, you know. It's all adult stuff. Like, I was watching my boy play baseball, you know, or nothing wild, you know, nothing worth.
My credit score broke 800.
Oh,
awesome.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking like credit scores and I don't know, like what kind of pens you like. Are you a felt tip guy? Are you a ballpoint guy? Do you like a lot of flow in your pen? I mean,
yeah. I heard interest rates dropped.
I mean, interest rates, refinancing, like, and then if the majority of the time is telling other men your age the most recent bargain you got. Right? If that's your big thing, you're like, you like that right there? Guess how much I paid for it?
Yeah.
You know, like it's like that's no good.
And I didn't go to Walmart to get that price.
Mm-mm.
In fact, I did it online with.
That's like a thing. Like
it is.
It's like like bragging about what you got for cheap.
Yeah, it is. It's
even
like
if it's something nobody cares.
Flagging
about.
tape. Yeah, I saved 6 cents on this flagging tape.
You're like, hey, I found out. You know, you tell these guys, hey, if you ever need flagging tape, I'm your guy.
Yeah, I know the place. You can save 6 cents on the roll. And if you're
you gotta ask, you gotta ask for Trevor though.
Yeah.
Stay away from Kent.
Yeah. Kent will make you buy 6 rolls to get the 6 cents off.
Oh yeah, to Trevor get the discount, but Trevor just gives it to you, right? Because he knows a repeat customer. He knows a repeat customer.
Yeah. That's yeah. That's relationship building right there. Is that okay?
Networking.
And networking. So that's kind of a big thing, that you heard it. You've heard the the terminology relationality. Have you heard that before? No, never heard it.
Nope.
Nope, not once.
Mm-mm.
Nope, never read a book. Relationality. It's a big thing. If you haven't been
Is it?
seeped in the literature lately, relationality
Who
is
has though?
yeah. So this is something that I want to explore today.
If
With
you
our
ever find yourself
okay,
at midnight, 12:30,
yeah.
knee deep in a JSTOR search, and you're downloading PDFs one after the other, you're just hitting them.
Yeah.
If you're ever in that situation,
Yeah.
as Sean Dean has, you might come across the term relationality. Did I say it right?
I think so. Yeah. Reciprocity.
No,
Oh,
you don't say
nay.
you think so. You know.
Nay.
You know.
Let's not go down any list of words that begin with R. But I do want to talk about this
Resilience.
we can say that. Yeah. Resiliency, sure. Relationality. But this is the thing. Relationality is oh, wait, what do you got? He's gonna whisper something. Do it. Do it now. I think he said repatriation. He said it. Now, this is the thing. We've got an esteemed guest today, and he's going to talk to us about something.
A special guest.
We could say special, maybe not esteemed. Maybe he's not made that category yet. Not esteemed, special. And he's got some
Specially
things.
esteemed.
He's got some things on his mind, and we wanted to give him a chance to let us know what's on his mind, because he's been down the road. He's been down the red road, and he's a former student of mine, and he's gone on to studying law at a university called University of Montana. And yeah, man, I want to hear what he has to say, because it's around this idea of relationality, and I want to hear what has he got. I want to know what he's got. What has he been fed? Because this special guest is not just some nobody.
Some run of the mill.
He's not run of the mill. This guy is hard knocks. He's from the res, deep in the res. And we will not give his geographical location, but I will tell you, he is deep in the res. And no matter where he goes, and you could tell just by the look on his face, he's still there. It don't matter where he's at. He could be in Boston, New York, but he chose Missoula, Montana, and he brought the res. Hot Springs, Perma. He brought it with him. So what do you got there, partner? Let us lay it on us. And don't.
All right. Well,
and
thanks
I don't want
for having me.
Yeah, and I don't want you to read. I don't want you to read your index cards. I don't want no script. We'll bust it. We'll bust it down
here.
We don't do that. Yeah.
Nice.
We frown on it.
Yeah. I wanted to bring this interesting topic to you about the Whanganui River, the one in New Zealand that got granted personhood.
Yeah.
And I've been learning about it from a legal perspective and indigenous law. And so I thought it'd be kind of an interesting topic, being former hydrologist and then having the historical preservation expert here. So I thought, it'd be kind of cool to, look at it from a cultural component as well. So I'm kind of excited to.
Yeah.
So let's just recap here. You're saying a river got granted personhood in New Zealand. Go.
Mm-hmm. So it basically have all the rights. So they're considered like a normal like person like you and me, and so they get basically like rights and powers, duties, all these things that a regular person has legally, and but they can't they represent themselves because they can sue or be sued. So the Aboriginal people there have the rights to bring lawsuits on their behalf. And so kind of protects their water quality and other things. So, but there's some interesting questions with legalhood because people kind of ask like, well, what does that mean? You know, like, can we bring assault charges on the river, or you know, like, can it vote, or you know, like, does it have the same rights as you and me? And so, you know, there's been some questions. So there's been some groundwork where they kind of said that not all rights apply, but just ones that make legal sense. So it's not, you know, can't vote. Fortunately, in New Zealand, there's no corporate manslaughter. They said the river can only have charges brought against them that a company can have brought against them. But so, yeah, it can't be charged. But if there was manslaughter, they would still have to prove that the river did something wrong, like acted careless or negligent in some way.
So things like child support are kind of not in the cards.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Can the river be on paper, as they say?
They actually claim it as an ancestor, as part of the Maori people. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure if it's actually enrolled or not. I don't know if they have per caps over there.
What would the benefit? What's the benefit of this? Why go this route? What does it do for the river?
Well, one, it kind of gives it protections for water quality, protect it from pollution. They have to they have language in there from the headwaters to the sea. So they kind of have to let it flow and let it stay whole. But they basically say, because it provides life and stuff that's kind of viewed as an equal or like an ancestor like them. So they, in their culture, they view it as a living entity. And in other countries too, they kind of have followed suit and kind of consider the river like a mother.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I think that it brings up this idea about, you know, relationality, and it's kind of a buzzword, I suppose, but it does make sense in a lot of ways. But I think what may not be, I guess, defined well enough for me anyway is the spectrum of relationships that exist in the past, and you know that still exists today. Now, this idea of saying, okay, all these things that one might call non-human, you know, like rivers, rocks, trees, landscapes. Yeah, we do attribute those, I guess, in a way, in our belief as being a living being, but I don't know to what degree that relationship extends as far as human to human relationships are concerned. And that's why, you know, I kind of joke around a little bit about it, but you know, the seriousness of it, I think is rooted in something that's pretty important. But when we, I guess, I was trying to think of some really words to kind of spice this up. You know, when we co-opt human things and apply them to non-human things, then we run a danger in a way.
Just don't.
Okay. I think we can run a danger in a particular way because I think it's difficult to really embody what that idea of relationality means between human things and spiritual things and inanimate things. Those can get pretty confused, especially for I would hate to say like the novice, but like the beginner who's like beginning to try to understand Indian things. I think that can that
I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know who pushed this like out of the native. Was it pushed by native people?
Yeah, the Maori or the indigenous, the Aboriginal people there were the ones that kind of pushed this through. Because there's a lot of things that kind of came with the act. Like they acknowledged, the Crown acknowledged all the bad things that it had done and that it didn't respect the river, the relationship between the Aboriginal people and the river, that they were so dependent on it for life and their survival. And so it actually apologizes for it and put like $81 million in this lawsuit to go towards a bunch of different things. And it was the longest lasting lawsuit in New Zealand history to kind of to reconcile this whole dispute anyway. So yeah, the Crown actually apologizes in the act, and there's a lot of things that go along with that. And they make some acknowledgments of some wrongdoings that they did.
Interesting. Yeah, so it was well, I mean, I guess I don't know for sure, but there's a purpose. There was a purpose behind, I guess, designating or providing personhood to a river, and that was to repatriate, or how would you say, to rectify wrongs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you said?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so
okay.
the Crown, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I get all that. That's needed. Those kind of things are it's progress in some sort of way. But I'm trying to bridge this understanding of how, and I think this is typical. This is typical of humans. I think it's one of our traits, maybe one of our misgivings, but we try to apply humanness to non-human things to try to gain an understanding of it. And I may be wrong. I may be wrong in that. But if you look at, say, creation stories, there's a humanness to the players and the actors in those stories that try to describe something upon the landscape, or to try to provide an understanding of a value system, or whether good or bad. But I don't know if this is and I'm not going to say that it's wrong or right, but I'm just trying to explore the idea of relationality and how we apply that concept across things, especially when we start tangling it in with things like law, like human written law. It seems dangerous, It seems dangerous.
Yeah, because law is created by man, and
yeah,
as I say, and where the kind of spiritual, I don't know if you want to say laws or rules or
yeah,
kind of are different, I'd say, and so they weren't created by human, I should say.
Right. So it would be like scripting down all of the norms and the processes that are important to engage in some sort of spiritual practice. Write those down in a book, like a prescription for process X to produce action Y, and that is that's I don't know. I guess for non-written societies that don't have a written language, I guess that's pretty foreign to begin with. But what I guess you're an emerging scholar in the law books, I suppose. What are some of the dangers that can come about when we do those kind of things?
Well, one, I think, is just a misunderstanding, or maybe not a full understanding of certain cultural concepts by maybe lawyers or judges, because I think it's like 15% of the population there is this Maori indigenous population. And so, I can't imagine there's a high number of them working in the legal field. So if they have to apply these cultural concepts, or, integrate it in the law, how well are they going to understand these or be able to articulate it? And so I think, that's some of the concerns too.
Right. So, Aaron, I want to ask you this, because you are on the interface of this type of, I would say, I don't know, what do you call it? This quandary, I guess, in a way, because you're trying to protect a resource, and we can tack on another word, a cultural resource, which includes a lot of different things, but we're engaging with law, federal law, tribal law, to try to do those things. What, in your opinion, your expert opinion, what are some of the complications that come out of that are in this arena of attaching personhood to things like rivers, mountains, trees, etc.?
Well, I would say from a cultural point of view, I can see a bunch of problems with it. From a legal point of view, like advantage, using it as an advantage in the realm of resource law and like environmental protection. I could see it kind of being useful a little bit, but the problem with the states is compacting water, like water's compacted, right? Compacted. So you would have to have two entities that recognize that, well, three really, fed, state, and tribal, which probably will never happen, right? But culturally, the biggest problem I see is that the crow belief is that water is not of us, that it's something else, that it belongs to something else. So the belief is that if you're gonna interact with the water, like rivers and bodies of water, you feed it. You have to feed it pieces of meat, which implies that it's something other, that it's a different deal. So I can see where like deeply rooted cultural people would say like, to give it personhood would imply that we understand it, you know, and it kind of has this implication that it's like us, and I can see them getting kind of frazzled about that. But from a law point of view, I get it. I totally get it. Like, and I almost think like that's the way it was. That's the way they used it. They're using it as a form of control and power. Because if you go in there talking cultural stuff, they're not going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I get it, but I think there's some details lacking, and that's that relationship, right? So there's some reason, like you said, you feed the river. It's not the same. Is it the same reason why you'd feed, say, your child, or no?
No, no, it's not. Like when you feed your kids, it's to keep them alive.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
When you feed the river, you're begging it.
Yeah.
And that's what you're supposed to say. Like, I'm giving you this so you don't take from me.
Right.
My kids are going to play here. My kids are going to swim. The things of you, just protect my children. They're not here to harm anything. So you would they say feed it good pieces of meat, or something like that. The crow believe that the water has beans in it, water beans. We don't imply that they're like us, though.
Right.
So there's a story of a guy named Iron Prong. He was fasting in the middle of the Missouri River, and he was taken into the water by some water beans, and they were making him stew. And they told him, the mom said, or the female said, eat some of this. And the male water bean kind of laughed, and he said, he's a human. He doesn't eat what we eat. And then when he looked inside the stew pot or whatever it was human bones. And so the guy says, go and kill a deer, bring it back, and she'll cook it for you, and then we'll have a meal. But that tells you, like, whatever's going on down there, I mean, it's not like us.
Yeah, I think that's the curious thing. Good. Brian, you're going to say something.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I just kind of remind me, like, it's I think it's in a lot of traditional cultures to respect the river, and you could tell when you're hanging out with some friends that aren't maybe culturally raised, and they're being kind of crazy on the water, like, well, yeah, like, you stay away from me, like I'm not trying to mess with this. I wanna live today.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
so you kind of always raised to respect the water.
Yeah.
It'll
Well,
respect you.
there's like a profound respect for for especially large bodies of water like rivers and lakes, but especially rivers. But I also think it doesn't come from like this, like we're going to respect the river. It's a kind of a fear
Yeah.
that these things are powerful, you know?
Right.
Like you go and messing around out there, then you're going to end up on a milk carton, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
If they even do that still, I don't know if they even put them on.
I haven't seen any lately, but
Yeah,
you never know.
It's been a while. It's been a while since
I'm
I've
I
seen
don't
a
buy.
milk
I don't buy a
carton.
lot of liters of milk. So,
Yeah.
But if I was, if I was to go missing in the
Yeah.
water,
yeah.
you'd be damn sure what will float to the top is my right in the rain.
Yes.
Aaron was here.
Plug
There
it.
it is.
There's his journal.
These right in the rains. These right in the rains are durable. They're indestructible, and I don't go anywhere without it.
Yeah.
And like it says, you can write in the rain.
It says what it says. It does what it says. No. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is the important one, and I don't know if we've emphasized it well enough. But yeah, and I would hope I would be. Is it remissed? I would be remissed. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm gonna look it up. I would hate to
It's good. It's good.
It's good. It'll work. I'd hate to confuse this idea of relationality, because I think you're right when you said this idea of respect the water. You had a demeanor about you, like there's this idea that we're gonna, like, water is life, and that's true and everything, and you want to have you want to be a certain way toward water and all things on earth. But I think in the end, the relationship is, I would not say adversarial, but like you said, it's like, hey man, these things can have the ability to really wipe us out. And you see that also with like lightning, storms, the predators.
Even like the way in the old days men would treat their weapons.
Right.
There was special places. Not everyone could touch them. You had to get permission. They weren't even in ceremonies. A lot of times they say, don't bring weapons in here. I think it's similar. There's this profound respect, the deep and borderline fear of like, these things can hurt you. So we're not going to just mess with them. That's more relatable, because everyone kind of knows like gun safety and things like that, because the cause and effect is far more direct, right?
Yeah.
If I phrase that right.
I think so.
Just like you said with storms.
Yeah.
But going back to that, there's this kind of idea of things that are weather related, that are related. I'm using that word too much, but
relationality
to water.
Switch to a different R.
So you have like water.
Yeah.
Relationality and reciprocal and the rationale behind this relationship.
To prevent the retaliation.
Yes.
Right. With the R.
Out of reverence for this revered, revenant relationship.
Okay. Let's cut that one out. Yeah. All right.
But so I think what I'm getting at is tribal people see rivers, lakes, springs, creeks, stuff like that the same, but also weather events in some weird way are related to all of that.
Right.
So if somebody is like, if you're talking to somebody about like, we're going to give the river personhood, that person who's deeply rooted in the culture and the understanding of the oral history, and as a practitioner might say, well, do you know the river? Like, do you know that river?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's not just like saying, well, all rivers, well, you don't know that river.
Right.
How the hell do you know? What if that river's so?
That river is a serial killer. You sure
But
you
yeah,
want to do that?
so
Yeah.
you've heard all these like little stories and anecdotal stuff. I don't know how that I related this to storms and stuff, but anyway, where they'll say, "Well, you guys can swim over here, but I don't want you going down here because we
Right.
just don't go over here."
Yeah.
But to say, if you were to say we're giving the whole river personhood, tribal, I've never met any tribal group in the Rockies that thinks that way.
Right. Right.
You know,
Right.
that's going to say, like, from beginning to end, this river is perfect, right?
Yeah.
They'll say we don't go over there because of such and such and such.
Yeah.
You know, we cross over here for this reason and this reason.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, I'll pass the mic.
No, I'm on it. I get it. Yeah, so let's let Bryan pipe in here because I know he's got something to say. He does. Let her rip.
Yeah, so I just kind of had a hard time understanding some of this. I had to really try to look into it. So one thing I thought was kind of interesting on a side note is they incorporate so much of their Maori native language in the law that's
Right.
kind of some of the justification of this is because that's how it was translated. So like, you know, if you're going to use the words, this is what you're actually saying. And so that was also some of the motivation in creating this law. But
Right.
Their lawyers there have to be bilingual, which I kind of thought was a cool side note.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of really like some of this stuff. They incorporated some hydrology aspects of it too, because they always talk about the rivers always moving, it's alive, and so as it meanders and stuff, they have it incorporated in there that land that was part of the river that's no longer goes back to the status it was before the law.
Yeah.
And then as it kind of takes over new land, that becomes part of the river.
Right.
But I did want one side note, Aaron, you did spark a thought. The people of the Maori, the ones that have a say in this and have control over it and can bring the lawsuits, they have to have a direct connection. There's a date on here. They have to be a direct descendant of someone that benefited or used the river from like 1840 or something. And so they have to have like some direct lineage in order to also exercise these rights.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
So the river's not allowed to meet any new people.
Newcomers, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, this is a Stan the river.
I'm really having a hard time wrapping my head around it. I'm not against it. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, well, I think it needs to be fleshed out, you know. It's like the statement that I said, you know, water is life. Yeah, that's true, I guess, but I think there's also the other aspect. Well, water is also death. And I think that idea of how you would treat and your relationship to something, knowing that it's both of these things, I think has a lot of implication. And it's not as simple as saying, you know, well, we have this relationship with the water. Well,
I think the personhood thing and the whole water is life movement maybe are kind of born out of the same idea of using something as a mechanism for exercising some sort of right.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think any one of those people would deny that there's some major flaws in those concepts.
Right.
But that's not the point, right? Maybe, and I'm just guessing here, maybe the point was not that, like, yeah, there's going to be some holes in the argument on a cultural side, but
Right.
on a legal side and in litigation, maybe it's pretty powerful. I guess I don't know if it's working. Is it working?
That's what I'm curious.
It just got passed in 2017, so there hasn't really been any lawsuits that have been brought on behalf of the river, and the river hasn't been sued, so it hasn't really been tested yet.
Here's what makes me skeptical of it is I fly the flag of tribal sovereignty and all that, but I really find it hard to believe that the crown is going to allow something that's going to be detrimental to them.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, they're the ones controlling the environment, especially the political environment. That doesn't mean Maori people aren't major players in it. But if they're a rook, I mean, the crown's the king and queen, right? Like they're still in there and they're heavy hitters. But so I'm curious to know, like, what is this? Remember in like the, was it maybe about 8 years ago when Canada apologized to First Nations about
right
the mistreatment of Indians, and everybody was like pretty excited about it, but then really, like, what does it give tribal people?
Yeah. What's the follow-up? Right?
Like nothing, not a damn thing.
Yeah.
I'm real skeptical of any time. I'm skeptical anytime these major political powerhouses like US, Canada, I mean, Australia, Russia, like if they're going to hand something, and I'm using the term hand something loosely, but to tribal people, like, what's the catch?
Yeah. Right.
Because if it's personhood, that means that it's subject to all things in personhood. That means a beginning and an end. It can have a death.
They talk about having a birthday, but they said it's considered to live on forever. So I kind of thought that was interesting.
Then it's not personhood.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
I mean, we can't just make up like, well, now we're gonna have forever personhood.
Well, they're elves, so it's like elvish people.
I didn't know. Vampires.
You know what we should do, Brian? we should have Brian come back on, and we should find a Maori person, like someone.
Hey, I'm
curious to know. I want to know what cultural Maori people think of it.
All right,
because just like in the States,
a
lot of these federal policies are pushed by non-practitioners.
Right.
You know, like this water is life stuff, where and I say that kind of bad, but it's always like the political movement pushing it. And meanwhile, these cultural people are still doing what cultural people do, and no one's really. I mean, they ask them for like this real shallow and superficial kind of information. You know, they get what they need and they get out and get back to, and they lobby for something. So I'm just curious to know, like, the people who run Maori ceremonial life, if how much involvement there, because on paper they could say, oh, we're asking these people, but people that are in Native communities, they know, they're like, that guy's a joke, you know, like he's not, you know.
Yeah.
Why'd you ask him?
Like, why is he there? You know, like,
why is he doing that?
Yeah. So I'm curious because, like, we all have those in our community where they're the face of the culture, but then the people that are involved in those things are looking at him and going, that guy don't even come around. Like, why is he even there? You know?
I think it would be interesting. They had to have the Maori perspective and kind of hear, like, if they have any concerns or if they see it as a success. You know, I'd kind of be interested to hear
what they would
have to say.
Now, yeah, I want to be clear. I'm not saying I'm against it. Yeah. I'm confused. I'm very confused.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing.
Like, you know, like,
yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Honestly, like, man, like, what, you know, just a little joke, like, what they got like, pulled over, like, like what, I pulled you over, you're all over the force back there, like, like it just kind of, there's all kinds of jokes, making the river personhood.
You're staggering. But
Yeah,
you're
dude,
staggering around.
Yeah.
You make up your mind. You're
Yeah.
all over the place. You're like, you're in and out of the rumble strip. You can't be on your phone.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, if people are partying on the river, can the river get a DUI?
Yeah. I suppose. Oh man, I don't know. So this is the thing. What you just said, and it's important. You're just talking about Aaron, and I don't want, like I said, you got to support what we have and the people who try hard, and I can't criticize nobody, but we have to be cautious and move forward in a manner that's going to benefit what is important. And sometimes I think, and this is my thought, is we can get a little too performative, especially with social media these days, where things can just get carried away, and they start to leave that area of where something should be sacred or something should be ceremonial and not broadcast and not put on a TikTok video or what have you. But for some people who are involved in protest movements, they that serves a purpose to try to broadcast the whatever it is out to a wider audience. But I think when we start overlapping that with ceremonial things, you run a danger of cheapening, I guess, or providing misinformation about cultural practices that need to be held in not necessarily secret, but that have a place in society. And I think this idea, it kind of starts to remind me of that, where is it just a performative action to really to take place of something that is really rooted in a deep cultural way that really we can't define on paper. We can't do any of those things that would are probably more important to look at. And I think that's how we can kind of joke around about it, because oh yeah, I got the river outside who's a person now, so I got to they flood at flood stage, they're getting too noisy, I'm going to call them in, and call in that river for being too noisy.
So what about this? What if you got a river and it dries up,
right,
and then it fills up again? Is that a whole new river, and the rights of that old river no longer exist, and the new dude?
They actually have that. They said the intermittent flowing waters from the headwaters, and so when it resumes flowing again, it becomes part of the body
counts
again.
Yeah,
man.
Right,
if I was the crown, I would have threw this out, man. I mean,
what's crazy though is I didn't realize over there in New Zealand is all land is owned by the crown. So it's almost like they're all Indians. Like all their lands in trust, like even the non-Indian people.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common.
So that's one thing
in
I never do.
Places, like in a lot of other countries, I think that's fairly common. But I'm skeptical. I'm real skeptical. But for the record, let's let the record reflect that this is 3 Indian dudes from the U.S. talking about something on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
That we know nothing about.
Well, now just wait a minute. Now, there's been a river in Quebec been granted personhood, Quebecois, and also in the United States, the Klamath River. Now, I might be wrong, but I don't know. Check my facts, but Klamath River has also been granted personhood. And I don't know if that's a certain section or the whole darn thing. I don't know. And that's a pretty important one that you brought up that probably people don't think about. Well, some stretches, I don't know, does it turn into a different kind of person? I don't know. Pretty important one, though. And that's where I think the discipline of, hydrology and oral histories and tribal historic preservation. So old dudes, know things about those.
What's really bothering me though about like native people now, like right now, and I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say it.
Get it out, man.
I might get some backlash, but I gotta say it. I gotta be me.
Okay. Wow.
Say which
Affirmation.
one.
It's affirmation time.
Deep thoughts with Jack Candy.
Yeah, Brian, you gonna do the next affirmation? Okay, go ahead.
So there's this whole like adopted idea that everything's equal.
Right.
Like there's all these, it's like the mountains, the river, male and female, we're all the same.
Right.
We're not.
No.
We're
we be?
not the same.
Right.
In fact, most native people see the mountains, like especially the high country and the water, as different things. They're different things. That's why they say when you go in the mountains, you should pray before you go, or you say you do this before you go, because it's a recognition that it's something different. So this idea, like this is across the board, like, oh, we're all related. Nah, I don't know, man. I mean, yeah. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I'm going to question it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
is that okay?
That's okay.
I think it's fine.
Brian says
humans,
it's okay.
like we're destructive in nature, you know, we're I don't know. I just like compared to other beings and creatures in this world, like we're just like nothing else, you know, like especially you just watch it, wildlife, you know, and how they respect each other and stuff. It's like humans, man, like we're just some of the most disrespectful, like we just degrade everything. It's just crazy. And so like even compare the river to Personhood's almost offensive in some ways.
Yeah, I would almost be like, well, actually it should probably be more like how we see wildlife. The river is probably more connected to like that, like it's this repetitive obedient. It's obedient.
Yeah,
like Crow people would say, like an elk doesn't have to be told what to do.
Right.
You know, it was told one time and it's done it. It does it.
Yeah.
Continues to do it. I don't know. I just, when you say personhood, I think of people, as you should, right? And I think like, man, we're idiots though.
Yeah. I think that's true with wildlife too. Like we went out to a site on a lake one time for class, and it was pretty windy, and this little osprey was really struggling to do its fishing, you know, and it finally got in there, and it was blowing all over the place, and it finally swooped down and got itself a nice little fish. We were watching all this, and then as soon as it got up off the water and into the air, this bald eagle come by and just smashed into him and took that fish away and took off. I thought, man, look at that eagle! What a jerk, you know. And everybody kind of started laughing, and, you know, and it demonstrates something that and I think animals and us are very similar in some ways. We're not perfect. Animals are not, you know, they're trying to survive, and if they gotta steal from someone else, of course they're gonna do that. To think that the animal kingdom is perfect, I think is a flaw. And also,
and if you give him personhood, would you charge him with theft?
Lock
that eagle up, lock him up.
I'm gonna file out an affidavit. I seen a crime.
Yeah,
we've got to pay
you're right. I mean,
restitution to the osprey.
The granting of personhood to a river is, to me, kind of part of this whole movement of reinventing what it means to be native too. So like, just like tribes in the Rocky Mountains, there's always been this thing like, tribal people, we don't waste the buffalo. We use every part. If that was the case, then as an archaeologist, how do I explain all these huge deposits of buffalo bone?
Right.
They're not used, man. They just get rid of them.
Yeah.
We're not perfect. We do crazy stuff, man.
How many spoons would you have if you made a spoon out of every horn
like
of every buffalo that was ever killed? You have a spoon
You're just
store.
packing all this stuff.
I got all these spoons because I can't waste one part. This is exhausting.
It's like, or when they say, when we take the life of an animal, we offer tobacco. I've heard this thing too. And then I think of buffalo jumps.
Buffalo jumps, yeah.
And I'm like, do they do that for every animal?
So basically, like, so offering tobacco for all of them, like just go up on the cliff and just throw a bundle of tobacco.
You just grab a bunch of tobacco and just be like, this is for all of you. This is for you get tobacco and you get tobacco.
Like Oprah. Tobacco,
Yeah.
tobacco.
Tobacco, tobacco, tobacco. Oh, you want some tobacco?
You missed
Like, I'm
one.
not, and you know, like, it's always, I don't know, when you watch people who are like practitioners of any of that stuff, it's real like casual, and it's kind of like, I mean, sometimes they'll be like, we're gonna do this right now and we'll do that. And like, yeah. But for the most part, it feels natural and you don't feel like you're putting on a show. So
Right. Yeah.
this personhood thing, it's like, if that's the case, I'd like to see it in the oral history. Because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Maori have all these narratives of like how the river is just like them.
Oh yeah, they actually have this saying that they quote. It's a thing that they always repeat. It says, "River flows from the mountain to the sea. I am the river is me." But they say it in their own language, but that's what it means translated to English.
It probably doesn't rhyme in their language, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not. Maybe they just lucked out in English.
I'm curious to know how old that saying is.
Yeah. I don't know. We gotta get.
Am I being facetious? Am I being too like negative?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be sometime. I don't think we should shy away from being
You have to be cautious.
critical, but I think critical, but also respectful of where people
Well,
are
what
at
if not?
things, you know.
And you're right.
Yeah.
And I always think of people who don't know the culture, especially young Native people, and they start reading stuff like this, and that's what they're learning.
Yeah.
It's one thing to know the culture and say, "Hey, we're gonna do this," you know. But meanwhile, everybody in the know kind of knows like this is done for this reason. Where like young folk who don't know, then they start getting involved and be like, yeah, this is it. This is the case, you know. This is it's so old.
Yeah, it becomes almost gospel, you know, that mentality where and it's immalleable. They become immalleable. And then that's destructive in a way because then that gets propagated. But I'm not saying that this idea of personhood of things is wrong or bad. I think it's worth exploring because it opens up this topic of you know, what is how do we define our relationship with certain things, and it's not you can't have a blanket statement. And I think we discussed this before about how exhausting it would be to live like that. Like everything's connected all the time. We have this equal relationship, and man, it would be an exhausting mental exercise to navigate from day to day thinking that. I don't know.
No, you're right, because my job as a preservation officer, I'm constantly combating this universal approach. Well, it'd be like, well, your predecessor said this, and I'm like, well, yeah, but also he had a different understanding of the culture. I'm a younger guy. I'm gonna have a different approach. Same story, different outcome, but also like that was a certain situation. This is a certain situation. So we're constantly combating like this notion that it's like it's all the same and it's all feel good, and it's like, no, actually that situation was different, and that's this, you know. And so by saying all rivers are have personhood, I don't think that's fair.
Right.
I don't think that's fair to the rivers.
Not fair to the river.
Because what if you think of
what do you know what the river knows? What do you know about what?
Yeah.
You're trying to personify the river. You're projecting.
Been here way longer than you.
You're projecting. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't project your frustration. Project your frustration on the river. How dare you?
Yeah. What if the river's kind of like how a little kid gets caught up in divorce court? And that little kid's like,
oh, you got to testify against your dad.
And the river's like, why am I here?
What am I?
Like, what's going on? Can I just go with my mom today? why, what's going on? And then like the court, they're arguing, the parents are arguing, and the river's just like, I just wish I was a creek again. That was dumb. That's a
Back
dumb
in the
one.
headwaters.
No, that's a good one.
It's like,
Back in the beginning. Yeah.
Back in the
I just wish I
headwater
was
days.
back in the
Yeah.
headwater days.
Back when I was
That was just a
groundwater.
creek.
And
Yeah.
then
Things are so much easier.
do rivers have siblings?
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, 'cause I know like in Bangladesh, they consider all rivers personhood. So I don't know if they're all considered like one being or like,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
would they then be siblings, like all related to each other? Yeah, it'd be-
Then that means how do they reproduce rivers? Can rivers have kids?
Start digging something right here. Hey, we're gonna name this one. Hey.
This is
Oh
getting
my God.
complicated. This is getting
Well,
complicated.
that's okay. And one thing I noticed too about Native people is like we've somehow adopted this thing that we're like the Maori.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm cool with them. I think their plight is similar to ours,
Yeah.
but they're far more unified and uniform culturally than we are in the States, you know?
Well, that's what we think. I would argue that, and I think some of the folks that I ran into in that area would argue as well. But I think more unified than tribes in the United States or North America, just by the
Okay.
fact that the language is very common, or it seems to be unified throughout their continent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By that
I'm
alone.
wrong. I'm always wrong.
I
So-
don't want, yeah.
My question is for Brian then.
Okay.
Deep down, what do you think of it?
Yeah.
Are you for personhood? Are you just saying that it doesn't have a place here in the States? Tell me what I'm hitting you with the hard dateline question.
Ooh,
Well, I
get some
definitely-
tissue. Gonna make him
From
cry. Okay, go.
From a cultural perspective, I definitely, get because it seems like there's like some sense of understanding where, there isn't an understanding of nature. I mean, I guess you can understand certain limits or certain rules or laws of nature, but I don't necessarily agree with personhood in that fashion. But from a hydrology perspective, like a conservation perspective, I like it. Just to be able to, I guess in law, theoretically, to have the same protections as a person, it would be easier to protect it from other damage or pollution or something like that, or putting in a hydroelectric facility that may disrupt it or something like that. So I think in those realms, I think it could be useful. But from the cultural perspective, I definitely from on a personal point of view, I don't fully agree with it.
So the current laws, I mean, they're probably not that great. Maybe like Clean Water Act, that's not enough. Is kind of what you're saying. Okay, so
Yeah, because I believe it's our tribes actually have higher standards in the Clean Water Act, isn't it?
yeah,
just slightly, or
the standards under the Clean Water Act are set higher than some state standards.
Let the record reflect that he was referring to the CSKT.
Okay, yeah. I think we got a court stenographer here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it. I get that it's probably in a far different arena than what we're kind of joking around about. That, and I think you stated that up front. There's certain things that what personhood actually means legally, I think, is different than what we're kind of clowning around about.
you can
Yeah,
have like a tax thing in there too that it makes as much as it spends, so it always breaks even, so it doesn't have to pay taxes.
Okay.
Oh no! Are you serious?
Right.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
I
part
guess
of it. I was reading through some of the act.
I guess if it falls under the law, you'd have to cover your bases on everything.
Quit justifying this ridiculous notion.
Aaron's hot. He's hot now. He's fired up.
I mean, Come on.
All right, yeah.
Knock it off.
Okay.
I think it could have just set in the court. They could have just said it. We're gonna grant it a special form of personhood in the sense of something symbolic and something meaningful, but
Yeah.
to actually get down to say, yeah, we know it's not gonna pay taxes.
Yeah.
Like, is someone really gonna be like, why does this river not have to pay taxes? Then it shouldn't be able to vote. It's like, yeah, like we know it, we get it, man. Like,
that's the funny thing about law. I think that, what I don't know. That's the funny thing about law. You really, I mean, it's all about the language, right? It's all about what's written down. And if you
how do you use that to your advantage?
Yeah. I'm curious. Like, I'm just messing around, but I get it that they have to put that stuff in there. But I'm really curious. They should have left it out just to see who soul was that would have
like the civil rights claim. Hey, I want equal rights. This river doesn't pay taxes.
Yeah, why does this river get exempt? Like, part of me kind of wishes they would have left it out just to see that guy who's probably
we all know that guy.
Yeah, we know the guy. He's got flags on his pickup.
Yeah.
More than one.
Yeah, and what's the deal with the "Don't Tread on Me" flag? Because that's like Georgia's state flag, right? Or someone's state flag, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't
I
think
thought
so.
It was a state like South Carolina or North Carolina or something. The "Don't Tread on Me" logo, the snake cut up, and that was I thought that was someone's flag, like someone's state flag.
I don't think it's a state. No.
Oh, okay. But I'm seeing them everywhere. I mean, they're making a comeback.
They are pretty popular.
They haven't been really this involved since I think John.
Since what?
Adams.
What? Since when?
Okay.
Yeah, say it again. You still there?
Did you lose me? Adams.
Yeah.
Since John.
Oh, there we are.
Since when?
Oh man, it's saying my internet is strong, and then it like kicks off and stuff. Since John Adams.
Since John Adams?
The joke's dead. Dude, the joke's dead, man.
Since Metallica's Black Album?
Oh, yeah. That was just a snake.
That was just a snake. It wasn't all cut up.
I don't think it was cut up.
They weren't hungry enough.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Well,
I mean, it was a Revolutionary War thing, right? Or like around
I'm
that
not
time.
Too sure.
We're not even sure.
It's not. This is not our area of expertise. Yeah, we're kind of left. We kind of left.
You're saying that like the personhood thing. We know what we're talking about. This whole podcast has been a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just shut up. Maybe you two know what you're talking about.
I don't know. Gadsden.
I think it's good to consider all perspectives.
What is it called? The Gadsden flag? I don't know how to say it. Yeah. It's not chopped up, though. The snake is not chopped up. Not. No.
I thought it was.
It's intact. But I think it was the Black Album, the Metallica Black Album, where the snake was chopped up. I think it's the other way around. I don't know. What do you know, Brian? We're off topic. Bring us back in, man. Bring us back in.
I was back like Black junior high, man.
Junior high.
Black.
Yeah, dude.
Many moons ago.
And you always had that one kid that would say, like, you got the Black Album? Then the other kid's like, dude, I've been listening to Metallica for like way longer.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this isn't like who's more like punk rock than the next guy. Anyway, I was that guy though for the most part.
Okay, Brian, let's let you wrap us up. What I mean, Aaron already hit you with the hard hitting question. What
the Dateline question? I made you pick a side, and you really didn't.
He rode the fence. That's okay. He got it.
He gave us this rigmarole, like this wasn't a sign. Is he
running for office?
Hey, can you just?
Yeah. Are you running for office?
What are you? Are you
for council seat?
Alderman?
The alderman, the Missoula County alderman. What's going on here? He rode the fence, but he did it pretty strategically. No, that's all right. I mean, you got this down.
that's kind of how I honestly felt. Like,
Yeah.
I guess I don't fully understand their cultural perspective, and maybe there's more that would bring some understanding there. But I think from my cultural understanding, from my heritage, how I was raised, I would ultimately, at the end of the day, I would have problems with this. I guess I was just trying to look on the good side of it, that it would have some protections, some conservation aspects that, would be beneficial, and, the tribes would have a longer chance to sustain off of it, if they still want to live a subsistence lifestyle.
So what is the future then? I mean, if you could make, maybe this is harder to ask, but generally some of the flaws, if you could address them, you advance to alderman of Missoula County and then on to Supreme Court of the United States of America, which is kind of a leap, but how does one fix and address this fine line between the cultural living, which is largely, not really written. It's mitigated and I guess you could say controlled by a group of people, not necessarily a written law. How do we? I mean, I get the spirit of the idea of personhood. We want to try to, and I think it plays on some stereotypes that we talked about how things are equal, how, it's this kind of romantic, and I'm not saying that's kind of what's going on here, but this romanticism about how people and the environment interact together, that really, water is both life and death, and we have to acknowledge that equally. So how do you wrap us up here by, telling us what do you see as the pathway forward? Go.
I kind of like some of what Aaron had to say, like kind of maybe giving them like a special, like carved out, like kind of maybe personhood, where they kind of acknowledge the cultural components, but they're not like in the law actually like considered a person, like maybe how the Maori have it. I like the concepts of it, but I think, maybe that would be one of the directions to go, is to maybe carve out some kind of special little like legal niche, that it would kind of protect it. But I mean, I guess there's like Clean Water Act and stuff, but I guess that doesn't take in the cultural components of, tribes and their relationships with the rivers and the animals and plants in the rivers. And so we think maybe it could kind of go one step further and kind of have that special spot where it kind of acknowledges that, but doesn't create all these kind of legal confusions or, jokes around, something is a person that's not a person. And so, kind of that would kind of maybe be the direction I would try to go.
Right. That's a tough one. That's a tough direction. I don't know. Aaron works in this area of the legalities of cultural preservation, and I'm sure he can give us a little blurb on the challenges of that, and then we'll wrap her up.
I would just say, man, it's not the problem with cultural resource laws. Nothing's clearly defined. It's all this kind of gray area. It really comes down to individual agreements between certain federal agencies and tribes. So tribes just got to set a standard and hopefully keep it. But when it comes up, I'll keep you posted.
Let's do it. And I'm going to try to reel in somebody from down that area. Maybe they can set us straight, because maybe we're all off. We might be all off.
And we probably are.
We're just Googling stuff, reading things. I don't know. If we can get it straight, I think that would be good. I think that'd help Bryan out. And if we can, maybe Bryan, you can come back on. We can get some lip service.
I'd love to.
We can get chewed out by some aunties down there in the Maori world there, and
get balled out by an elder.
Let's get balled out, man. Let's get balled out. We'll get it on tape.
That's a cultural experience.
Let's do it. All right, we're out then. You good? We're out. All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode. And if you want to learn more about what we're up to, Go ahead and search Tribal Research Specialists in Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, and check out our other sites. And if you want to contribute to the show, go ahead and look us up on Patreon. We would appreciate your donation.